and welcome to my channel. My name is Anya, and in this video I will take you through my thoughts and the whole process that I've had going for a little over a week now of which products I would purchase first if all of my makeup disappeared. If I had to start all over again, where would I begin? I saw Hannah Louise Poston do a video on this a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember when she posted it or when I saw it, because time in the last couple of weeks have just meshed together and I can't really distinguish a week from the next. But watching her do this made me want to do it. My makeup collection is ginormous, too big for me. I dislike that. I'm currently working on downsizing, and I've been thinking for a while now, over the last couple of months, sort of on and off, which products I would repurchase, you know, thinking through which ones do I actually like enough to rebuy. And the answer, sort of without me having gone through like item by item, is less than half and probably less than a quarter. But this made me think a little bit differently, because not all of the items I would purchase if all of my makeup disappeared at first are favourites of mine, for a couple of reasons. One of the biggest sort of hurdles I had to overcome is just how expensive makeup is and how much of it I can access, how much money can I spend in a month or in a matter of weeks or so. I don't really have it like a timeline of how quickly I would acquire all of this, but I would assume it would happen over the course of a couple of weeks, not really much longer. You know, I have so much money to spend, and I have thought, you know, a lot about what parts of my makeup collection can I leave, which parts aren't really vital for me to have an item in. And I have a couple of categories where I haven't picked anything that I would fill, because if I were to start, they aren't products that I reach for often enough to want to spend what is my limited amount of money on them. I would rather spend them on other things. And another reason why why this selection isn't all of my favourites that are less expensive is because I also thought about availability. How quickly can I get these products? I am located in Norway, I live in Norway, so I don't have access to a Sephora, I don't have access to a CVS and those things. I have a limited-ish amount of brands that I have access to, whether they are in stores or online, and I sort of narrowed it down mostly by what can I get within a month, and I can absolutely place an order at Sephora or Colourpop and have it within about a month. But there aren't a lot of items that I would have to buy at those places here, for a couple of reasons. One, it's expensive. Even though, you know, Sephora is a place where you buy expensive makeup and I have purchased from them in the past, Colourpop is known for less expensive makeup and more affordable ones, and I love a lot of their products. But I have to pay shipping, I have to pay import tax and duties and everything. And what starts off as being inexpensive ends up being a bit expensive at the end. And when I sat down and did this whole project, I discarded how the world is currently doing and thought about it at more of like an average day, even though I can still absolutely do this with how it is now, considering I already do most of my shopping of makeup online, and most if not all of these items I can actually get easily online. I had a bit of a thought about availability. So the majority of these items are items I can buy either online or in stores from Norwegian retailers, and some of them are very common. There's going to be one brand particular that's going to show up a lot, and I'm going to explain that as I go. But I considered making this a two-parter. One part was going to be if I had to consider money and just life, what would I buy? And that's this video. My second part was going to be if money was no obligation, if I had unlimited funds or something like that, what would I buy? Both from what was already in my collection, like if I could buy them back into my collection, what would I buy first? But also everything else that is currently available. But I ended up just it was too much information for me to be able to convey in one video. It's a video I might consider doing a version of in the future, more about not necessarily what I would buy first if my makeup disappeared, because that's this video, but talking more about my favourites within each category of makeup that I have and that I have used and tried in the past. But I think I should just go jump into this video because there's going to be a lot of talking, a lot of trying to convey my thoughts, and I'm a bit nervous about it because I've collected everything and I have the prices of everything written down, so I know sort of approximately what everything costs and everything, but I can say right now, one, not all of these items are favourites of mine, and two, not all of the items I'm going to show are the actual items I would buy. I have some items in here as placeholders for other things. I'm not sure I would buy all of the things I'm showing you in terms of like the amount of lip products or eyeshadows and stuff like that. I'm not sure I would buy all of the ones I'm going to show, but sitting down and thinking about it and looking at everything, these were the first things that sort of came to mind as things that I would want as quickly as I could if everything disappeared. I thought about taking you through it sort of by category, so starting with primers and working my way down, but it makes more sense for me to start with the items that I am 100% certain I would purchase and go from there. My primer is a product that I would get because primer for me is something that I wear almost every single time I do my makeup, and the one I would get is the number 7 Airbrush Away. I love this, it works really well for my skin. It is a little bit pricey. This costs 229.90. All prices I mention are in Norwegian krones. Kroner. I always feel weird saying that in English because I don't know if I should try and say it in English or revert to how I say it in Norwegian, but it's a little bit expensive for a primer, but it's one that does work really wonderful and one of the only ones that I actually enjoy using. So it's a lock, I would absolutely buy it, and it's one that I use frequently. But my primer is a lock. So is my powder foundation. I would absolutely buy this. It would be the first thing in my cart at Makeup Mekka, which is a Norwegian online makeup boutique shop. I forgot the word for a second. I have the shade Marshmallow. It fits me decently well. It's a tiny bit dark, but it's workable. Love it. I've gone through multiples of these. Would buy multiples of it as well. I would probably pick up like 2 or 3. Next are my eyebrows, and my eyebrows, I have 2 products that are favourites for me. One is my pencil. It's the NYX Micro Brow Pencil in Auburn. It's what I'm wearing. It's what I use 99% of the time unless I'm not using anything else. I love it. Would absolutely pick it up. It's expensive though. It's 119 and okay. In US dollars I think it is about 12 or 13. 11, 12, 13, somewhere around that. Don't know for pounds, I think it's about 10, 11, 12-ish. And along with the brow pencil, something that I also use is a brow gel. This is the NYX Control Freak. I've panned this recently, so I still have the tube. It is my favourite, I love it. It holds my brows in place and it just works amazingly well. So I would buy that. I forgot to mention the price of the powder foundation. It's 129 and the brow gel is 85. Another product that I would buy is a mascara, sort of no matter what. And the one I have here is Tarte Lights Camera Splashes, but I would not buy this at once. Or it kind of depends a little bit. Most likely I would not buy this at first. I would end up buying the Max Factor 2000 Calorie Waterproof Volume, which is my favourite drugstore mascara that I can get a hold of. It is amazing. It's very similar to this. The only downside is that Max Factor is not considered cruelty free, and it's something that I thought about for a bit when I sat down and compiled all of my products here. I quickly realised that not everything is cruelty free on my list. The majority of the products I've selected are cruelty free just because that's what the majority of the products I use are, and those are the ones that I like. But for mascara, and mascara I think is one of the only exceptions, if it's not the only exception, where because I have to buy this from Tarte's website and that has to be shipped to me from overseas, it takes everything from 2 to 4 weeks for me to get this after I bought it. And I rarely wear makeup without mascara these days, and although I would absolutely pick this up at some point, it wouldn't be the first one I would buy. The first one would be the Max Factor one because I can easily get a hold of that through multiple retailers in Norway, both online and in person, and it's one that works really well for me. The other two that I absolutely know I would pick up is the setting spray, and I've chosen the Makeup Mekka setting spray. It is one of my favourites and I do like that and use it very frequently. Love it a lot. It is great. Again, I've forgotten to name the prices. The Max Factor mascara is 119 and okay. This setting spray is 129. Another item that I would almost 100% pick up is a green colour corrector. I've been really into green colour corrector recently. I've been using it a lot. I'm wearing it today instead of foundation. And my favourite is the Urban Decay one. But the Urban Decay one is about twice as expensive as this one, if not more. And I would pick up the Makeup Mekka one in green because it works. The colour isn't perfectly what I want. This is a bit darker than what I like, but it works. The formulation is gorgeous. It looks amazing on the skin. It works. It does the trick. It does exactly what I want. And this is one of those areas where I'm gonna save the money by picking up this one instead of the Urban Decay one. And those are the only items so far that I have an absolute lock on what I would get. I'm gonna continue with the rest, and I'm gonna go down my list because that's gonna be the easiest. So after primer, I have foundation, and for foundation, I have my powder foundation. I knew I was going to pick that up right away, but I have sort of three, four different scenarios that I could go with, all of which would work, and one of them involves picking up no liquid foundation at all. Recently, I've struggled a lot with my liquid foundations. They just don't work very well with my skin. I find them very tricky to use, and I'm just not in love with them. I prefer either the ease of using concealer all over my face where I need it, or colour corrector, or my powder foundation. I haven't really reached for liquid foundations unless I have to. So what I would potentially put in the place of a liquid foundation, which one I would buy, was a very difficult question to answer because at the moment I don't really have any favourites. I don't like a lot of the ones I have, and I don't know which ones I would potentially buy. I did end up finding two alternatives of products that I would consider. One that I like is the Urban Decay All Nighter. I have the shade 0.5. This looks amazing on my skin. It wears really well, and I like how it looks, and I like how it applies. I like everything about it except for the price tag, which is why this is sort of, it's not a lock, but it's definitely a product I would consider because I like how it looks. It has a couple of drawbacks, one being the price tag. This costs $390 and okay. It's a lot. It's the most expensive product on here, and I like it, but there's a couple of things that made me not instantly go for this one. One is the colour is too dark. I have the shade 0.5, as I said, and it's the lightest one they offer, which means if I were to pick this up, I would have to pick up a white mixer. A white mixer is something that I would eventually get anyway, because as a pale person, this is very useful, and I use it almost every single time I do my makeup if I'm wearing a liquid foundation, because most of them are too dark. So this would eventually be a product I would pick up, but if I were to not pick up a liquid foundation that was too dark, I could save money by not having to pick up a whitener at all. So that's sort of one of those things where I'm not sure if this would actually end up on my list of products to buy, because as it currently stands, I'm not using liquid foundation that much, and I just don't know if this would make the cut. The other issue, or it's not really an issue, but the other thing, when I wear liquid foundation, I need to set it with a powder. I have yet to find any that can be worn without being set with a powder without melting off my face. So for me to be able to wear this, I would have to buy 2 additional products, but I already have my powder foundation that can do what this would do with 3 in 1. So that was a consideration. And the other one was a different foundation, and it was a Makeup Mekka product. Now, a lot of my picks here are Makeup Mekka for a couple of reasons. One, easy to get. They deliver it right to my door. They are online only, and I have used a lot of their products. I have to date tried almost everything they have. I have tried almost everything available on their website, and I've tried a lot of their releases over the last couple of years, so I do sort of in general know how most of their products perform on me. That being said, their foundations and concealers have never been my favourites. I find my biggest issue again is the shade. They are too dark. They're often too dark. This is the shade Porcelain, and this is actually a shade that is workable for me, but it is the wrong undertone mainly, so I can make this work without it. I would still need a powder, but I can make this work without a lightener. So I have swatched. That is the Makeup Mekka foundation on top, and this is the Urban Decay All Nighter, and it looks a bit weird that I say I would need to mix this one but not that one. The main difference is the undertone of the Makeup Mekka one is a little bit better for me, but the All Nighter also does oxidize, and that's my biggest issue. Makeup Mekka products sometimes do oxidize on me as well, which is one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of it. Something that does make me seriously consider a liquid foundation from Makeup Mekka along with potentially a concealer is just the fact that I can make the shade work most of the time, and they also very frequently have things on sale. That's the main reason why a lot of the items here are Makeup Mekka, is because I would be able to get a lot of them not on full price. They have a lot of deals. Sometimes you can get products more than 50 and even 75% discounted, and that's what really made me consider picking up a foundation from Makeup Mekka. The one I have here is kind of a placeholder, but also sort of kind of the product I would pick. It's the Mattifying Camouflage Foundation. It on me has medium to full coverage. It's not matte, but it's decent. It looks nice on the skin and it doesn't really give me any issues. But the weird part, or I say weird, but it's not really weird for me, the foundation that I've considered, as well as the concealer I've considered for Makeup Mekka, because I have thought about foundation and concealer sort of together as a package. It's not necessarily that, but that's how I've thought of it mostly. Both the foundation that I would consider from Makeup Mekka aren't any that I've tried. So I have the powder foundation, but the one that I sort of played around with and put in my basket to test, and sort of the one I'm the most interested in, is one I haven't tried before. It does seem a little bit strange, if all my makeup disappeared, that the product I would pick up is one that I've never used. But I think part of the reason why I've sort of been drawn to that is that I have tried two of the liquid foundations, a stick foundation and a powder foundation, and I don't know, a part of me thinks that the one I want to try can't be that different from the ones I have. So I sort of know what I'm going towards, even though I haven't used it before, but also because I can most of the time get that not at full price. I can usually get it 50% off or more. I'm not wasting that much money if I pick it up and it doesn't work that well. But I also have my powder foundation that I know works 100% of the time with me. I already have that. Right now, I am not sure what I would do. I'm not sure if I would pick up a liquid foundation at all. If I were to pick up one, if I were to go for something that I know, it would be the Urban Decay All-Nighter. I would hope that I could find a coupon or you buy it on sale, because the website where I buy that from too frequently has things on sale, and I get coupons from them because I am a member of their club. But when I went to check, they didn't have the 0.5 shade on the website, so I don't actually know if they're going to stop selling it. I don't know the deal, but it is the product I would consider. I'm also, in honesty, leaning more towards picking up a Makeup Mekka foundation that I haven't tried, because at the moment I'm more interested in trying that one, because it's said to be a hydrating foundation. The one I'm considering is the Hydra cover foundation, and it costs $149. The mattifying one that I have here costs $129, and that's the one I'm most leaning towards, because it's supposed to be, I think it's a medium coverage, yeah, medium buildable coverage for normal to dry skin, and it's supposed to be hydrating. And my skin has been freaking out recently. It's been very dry, not behaving very well, and I've had a lot of issues with liquid foundations, because the foundation that I thought I would pick up was the Maybelline Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless, because it is one that I've used before. I currently have a tube of it that I'm using in my Shop My Stash, and it's worked really well for me in the past, but now it doesn't really work that well for me anymore. It doesn't look as nice as it used to, so I scratched it off my list, and it's been replaced by a foundation I haven't tried, which I mean is kind of risky. But as I said, I already have my powder foundation that is going to give me the coverage if I need it, if it doesn't end up working for me. Something that is maybe a bit more important for me over a foundation is a concealer. And I have three here that I am sort of considering. One is the Urban Decay All-Nighter Concealer. I have the shade Fair Neutral. It's a pretty good match for me. Wears really well, and it just looks gorgeous on the skin. It comes up against my favourite, which is Tarte Shape Tape. I have the shade Fair. It is my skin tone, pretty much exactly, and it just looks amazing. And then I have this. This is the Makeup Mekka Invisible Cover Radiant Booster Mineral Concealer. They do have this on the website, and the shade, I think I have Light. I have the shade Light, which is the lightest shade. It's okay. This isn't as high coverage as the Urban Decay or the Tarte one, but it is natural looking and it looks really nice on the skin. Personally though, I am leaning towards coverage rather than this, because these also do look natural on my skin and I prefer them. But this is also sort of a placeholder for something I haven't tried that I've been wanting to try since they released it. It's their Hydra Shape Multi-Use Concealer. I think it's supposed to be a dupe or a similar product to Tarte Shape Tape, kind of, but more hydrating, I suppose. And my biggest issue here, and the biggest problem that I could run into, would be that the colour isn't light enough for me, that it's going to be too dark, in which case one of the uses that I tend to use concealer in I wouldn't be able to do, which is that I use it as a foundation. Sort of, I spot concealer and put it where I need the coverage and then blend it out. And I can leave parts of my face bare with nothing on it, because I mainly use Tarte Shape Tape for this purely because the colour is such a good match. It doesn't necessarily look it, but I've done that today on top of green colour corrector and it's undetectable, and that's what I love about this so much. And it's also what made me seriously consider picking this up as my concealer of choice, because I've said that it would take me a couple of weeks for this to get to me, and that would absolutely be a thing, but I think I'd be willing to wait for this because I would have my powder foundation. But chances are I would also potentially consider picking up the Hydra Shape concealer in the lightest shade, which is Porcelain, if it was on sale, if I didn't have to pay full price for it, alongside picking up this. This might not be a product that I would pick up right away. It might not be like my makeup disappeared tomorrow, this would be the first thing that I bought. It probably wouldn't be, because it is expensive and I have to pay additional duties and taxes and stuff on top of the price of this, but I would absolutely consider it, and I would buy it within the first month and have it. Not necessarily like have it in the first month, but I would buy it because I use it so much and I love it a lot, and I would miss it a lot, and I've yet to find a product that does what this does on my skin for cheaper. The Urban Decay one comes close, and if I factor in taxes, duties and shipping on the price of this, this would be more expensive, but on their own this is less expensive than this, and I also get a ton more product in here. But with duties and everything this would be more expensive, but I think it would still be worth the price for me, so I would buy this. Not sure if it would be like the first and only concealer I would buy. I would buy it. And then the sort of question arises, when I spend the money on this, or would I go for a Makeup Mekka one? I would already be placing an order from them for my powder foundation, my colour corrector and my setting spray, and potentially more, and I could easily throw in a concealer. They have, I think, 4 concealers on the website. I've tried 2. I liked this and I've kept this. I've decluttered the other one because it just did nothing for me. But I would potentially pick up the Hydra Shape one, even when I know I would buy Tarte Shape Tape, to see if it was any good. Because if it worked, I might not have to pick up Tarte Shape Tape. I know that's a big, like, if, and I would most likely pick it up anyway. But it would give me an option for something that is different. I don't know, it doesn't feel like as much of a risk for me to add it into my already existing order to try. That's sort of my thing with liquid foundation and concealer, where I'm not really sure what to do. I know the most likely answer would be that I would pick up Tarte Shape Tape as a concealer because I can also use it as a foundation, but then potentially pick up liquid foundation and a concealer from Makeup Mekka that I haven't tried but that I do want to try, and just see how it goes. I think I've talked long enough about foundation. I think I can move on to my next category. I almost forgot to talk about this. This is another colour corrector, and this is in the shade Pink. This is one that if I were to not buy a foundation and concealer, I would buy this because it would give me something to use underneath the eyes. Along with my colour corrector, this also works great under the powder foundation. I like the colour, I like the formulation, but if I were to buy Tarte Shape Tape fairly early on, this is a product I wouldn't need because this can work underneath the eyes on its own and it looks amazing. I wouldn't really need this. So it's sort of one of those moments where I know I would buy this, but I don't know how early on I would. And this is a product that I would consider because I wouldn't have anything else to use under my eyes. And I can wear this on its own. I don't need to add something on top to sort of correct the colour corrector, if you will, because this does melt into my skin fairly well. As like a tone, I can't wear this as concealer because it's too pink, but it works great underneath the eyes. So it's a product I would consider. Now, along with talking about liquid foundation, I know I briefly mentioned my white mixer. The one I have here is the NYX Pro Foundation Mixer in the shade white. It is my favourite, I love it, and I would absolutely buy this at some point if I choose to buy liquid foundations and try them and experiment with them, because it's a super handy thing to have. But something that I would also need with a liquid foundation, at least on my skin, is a pressed powder. So I have two powders here that I would consider. One is my favourite, and it's the Colourpop No Filter Sheer Pressed Powder in Fair. Works like a charm, is just the best, one of the best matte powders I've tried. But here's the thing. The reason this just didn't like shoot it up to the list and stay there is because, again, I would have to buy this from the Colourpop website and it had to be shipped to me. Colourpop takes about a month from when I order to when I get it. I can absolutely handle a month of not using liquid foundation and only using my powder foundation. It would absolutely be an option, which is why I have this here as something that I seriously consider, because I'm willing to wait for a month knowing that I already have something I can use. But the price of this is $10 US, I think, which is about 110, 115-ish, and okay, depending on how the currency exchange is. It would be sort of expensive. My other option is something that I would be able to buy either in stores or online in Norway, and it's from Isadora. I have the Velvet Touch Compact Powder here in Soft Mist. I also have another Isadora powder, and I don't actually know which one of them I would buy. This has a colour to it, and from memory, I've only used this a couple of times and it's been a while. I think this is somewhat similar to the Rimmel Stay Matte, which, if I could get my hands on it, would be a product I would consider, because it works well for my skin and it has worked great for me in the past, and it's one that I like, and it's also reasonably affordable. But if I can't find it in stores or online from a Norwegian retailer, I wouldn't get it because it would be more expensive than Colourpop. I know I would order from Colourpop already when I sat down here, because Colourpop has a couple of my favourite things. This is one. The Super Shock shadows are my favourite eyeshadows, and they also have some of my favourite eyeshadow palettes and singles. So I know I would place a Colourpop order fairly early on. How much I would be able to spend would, you know, depend on how much money I had, and chances are I would potentially wait for a payday so that I could buy a larger order with multiple items in them, and I would then pick this up, and I would potentially pick up two because I had to pay import duties and stuff. I'm going to say that for everything, you've probably caught on by now. For anything that I purchased that comes in from outside of Norway, and I would consider picking up more than one of that powder if it's going to be my only one, because I like it and I would be using it, and I can use the powder in a couple of months. But something that I also most likely would do is pick up a powder from a retailer in Norway, so that I would have something that I could buy here, that I wouldn't have to depend on having something shipped to me. And the Isadora ones I have two. I feel okay about them. They're not my favourites, but they are usable, which is why they are sort of here as an option. They also have a powder that I don't have, and I've considered picking it up in the past. I haven't done it. This one costs 169 and okay, and it's a fine powder. It works well. My only issue is that it can be a little bit heavy, and because it also has some tint to it and the colour, Isadora's colours tend to run a bit dark on me, so I would run the risk of this being too dark. From memory though, this is fine, so that's why it's sort of been here as an option. I haven't used it in a while, so I'm not 100% certain, because my memory is awful and I can't remember very well. But they have a completely transparent one. It looks white in the pan and it's smaller than this. If I can find a picture, I will put it in, but that costs 139, which is a bit cheaper. That's the one I would consider picking up. But powder, along with foundation, is a product that I'm struggling a little bit with. My favourite is the Colourpop one, and the Hourglass Ambient Lighting powders. They're not on this list. They're not in my pile of even potential add-ons that I would, you know, get in the next couple of weeks and months afterwards, because they're that expensive. I would potentially pick them up at some point. I actually haven't made like a Sephora pile. I have a pile for Colourpop and things I would consider buying from them when I would place that order, as well as additional things from other brands. I don't have what I would buy from Sephora when I eventually would place a Sephora order, because it would most likely happen. I don't know when, but it would happen. But those would be something I would potentially consider down the road. They have a very specific purpose for me, which is to be glowing powders, and they're just too expensive for me to be able to think about affording them as my starter, because I just can't. They're too expensive for me. But I would consider the Colourpop one with the Colourpop order that would eventually be placed. In the meantime, I would consider picking up an Isadora one unless I decided to go the route of not buying a liquid foundation until I could get a Colourpop order in, so that I would have the Colourpop powder to use then. That is all of the sort of base products, the non-colour cosmetics. But I also have picks for lip products, eyeshadows and blush, bronzer, highlighter, because a makeup look wouldn't be complete for me without any of those. For blush, bronzer, highlighter, I decided very, very quickly, like one of the first sort of decisions I made was I would not buy 3 separate things, I would buy a palette. I have 3 different palettes here to show. One of the more likely ones is the Isadora Face Sculptor. I have the shade Warm Peach. I have panned these, so I have barely anything left of the highlighter. It's around the edges here, the bronzer and the blush. And this is a very easy palette for me. I like the blush, the highlighter is gorgeous. The bronzer is the only thing in here that I'm not 100% in love with because it is a little bit too dark for me, but all around it's one I can use in many different looks because it's very neutral. The blush is like a pinky peach colour, the highlighter fits very nicely with my skin, and the bronzer is just a bit too warm, but I can make it work with a lighter hand. This costs $199, but I would heavily consider something else for the sole reason that the bronzer isn't really something that I love, and for me to be able to fully get use out of it and get a bronzer that I like, I would need to buy a separate one, and I don't really want that. An option is this Isadora Blush and Glow Draping Wheel. This is in Peachy Rose Pop. It has 4 blushes and a highlighter, but maybe you can see what I'm seeing, that these two, although this one has a bit of a shine, this one at least, I can sort of wear as a bronzer. It is much rosier than the one from the other Isadora palette. So I have the Blush and Glow wheel up top and then the Face Sculptor at the bottom. The Face Sculptor one is definitely more of what I think of like as a traditional bronzy tone. The blush wheel is definitely more pink, but I can make both of them work as bronzers. None of them are a lock, because I originally locked this one in as my pick, but then I started thinking more and looking more at what I have, and this palette came to mind. It's the Makeup Mekka Glow Like Me Face palette. It has 2 blushes, a bronzer and a highlighter. The highlighter falls into the category of being on the border of being too dark. I can top over any of the 2 blushes in here and it looks fine, and I also do really enjoy this blush up top here, which is this really gorgeous, almost rose goldy kind of sheen to it. It has some shine to it and I like it, but what made this more of a possibility for me is the bronzer in here, because it's just such a gorgeous tone on me. It is the one at the bottom. It's more pigmented than the other 2, or my swatch is a bit heavy, but it is more neutral than the one above it, which is more orange. I'm not the biggest fan of this pinker blush down at the bottom here, because it ends up being too pink sometimes, too cool toned pink, and that's just not a blush look that I go for. But I can absolutely use the Glow It Up shade, which is the more peachy rose gold kind of colour, and it works fine, and I can use the highlighter with these other products as well. And another thing that made me seriously consider this is, again, the same things for all of the Makeup Mekka products. They frequently have things on sale, and this would be a fairly nice place for me to start. I would have a bronzer that I can use very well. I would have a warm tone blush and a cool tone blush that I could use. I can also mix them, that also does work. The highlighter though is the letdown really for me in this palette, because it's not really that shiny. What makes me sad looking at the website is Makeup Mekka has apparently gotten rid of my favourite highlighters, which was the Hypnotic Metallics one, the most blinding highlighters I've ever tried, and I love them to bits, and I have them, and I would not give them up. That would be something I would also buy. They used to have a palette with all of the 4 shades in them. I have it, I would buy it. It was one of those, like, the first thing I thought of if for the part 2 of this video, if I could pick from my existing collection what I would buy back if everything disappeared. But Makeup Mekka also has other blushes and highlighters that I don't hate. The main one that I thought of was the Iconic highlighter. It looks sort of like nothing in the pan, and again also looks like it would be potentially too dark. but this on the skin, it just looks so gorgeous. It ends up just making my cheeks look nice, and I like it. It's extremely forgiving for texture, it doesn't emphasize anything, and it just looks amazing. So this is one that I would eventually pick up and would consider perhaps at the first go if I were to pick this up. This is 149 versus 199 for the face sculptor and 249 for the blush and go draping wheel. So I would consider perhaps this one. I would consider it more if this was on sale. This is a 99 NOK product. So buying this and this would make it more expensive than buying the face sculptor, which has overall probably more usable products like all of them. I am seriously considering, it's sort of mostly between these two. I don't know which one I would pick if I had to make the choice. I might end up going for the Makeup Mekka one for the ease of buying it, because as I said, I would already be making an order from them and I could throw this into the cart, and I would consider picking up this with it if I was there. But for now, I would definitely go for a face palette as my choice of blush, bronzer, highlighter, because it saves both money and it saves space. Then I have eyeshadows, and my initial thought, and the stuff that I would have wanted first, would have been a Colourpop palette. They are one of my favourite eyeshadow palettes, and I have two that ended up sort of making a short list of which I would get. It's the Yes Please and the I Think I Love You. Yes Please here, warm neutrals, yellows, oranges, those tones, and then I Think I Love You is more browns, warm toned browns. I like them a lot, I've used them a lot. But as I said with any other Colourpop items, it would take a while to get to me, and I out of choice probably wouldn't be able to last a month without buying anything. I would eventually pick those two up, most likely, at my first order, along with some Super Shock shadows. The two that I want the most are two that I can't get because they have stopped selling them. It's the shade Kathleen Lights and Cornelius. But I would pick up similar shades essentially. Kathleen Lights is a gorgeous copper. It's a metallic, it is amazing. One of the best shades they've done, and then Cornelius is a light, slightly warm toned brown, and I love it. Another one that is very similar is Lightning Bug. It's also a copper. This is more of a sparkly one and a bit more flaky, but I would buy a copper, a warm toned brown, a matte brown, something in this sort of colour family. I have Melrose here, which I have repressed, which is why it looks a bit weird, but it's a much deeper brown than Cornelius, and it's more red. And then I have White Rabbit, which is a darker, more red copper than what Kathleen Lights is, but something along that colour family I would pick up, because Super Shocks are my favourite eyeshadow formulation and I would not be able to last that long without them. But in the meantime, I would pick up some Makeup Mekka eyeshadows, and they have, along with Colourpop, probably one of my favourite eyeshadow formulations. I have two palettes here. I originally was going to do this one. This is the Back to Basics Burnt Tones, and it's their warm toned palette. You can see what kind of looks I would get with these. It's warm tones, browns, and sort of burnt orange kind of colours. And even though I love that, and most of my looks are in this family, I would want something a little bit lighter, which is why I also have the Hot and Cold tones here from the same Back to Basics line. It has similar, this leans also, I find, fairly warm, considering this is supposed to be a neutral one. It has a red, some rose golds, some more peachy tones, and it's essentially one that it's lighter, and I feel like it would pair very well with that one, and so I would pick up those. These are kind of expensive though. These are 199 a piece. I was also considering only the Hot and Cold tones once I sort of looked at this and thought it was too dark. I would perhaps consider this one on its own, but the more I look at them, the more I lean towards the burnt tones if I had to only buy one. And then I know I would buy the Colourpop palettes. I would buy Yes Please and I Think I Love You, and some of the shades overlap, but I find that even though some of them are similar, they do not look the same on the eyes for me, and I would consider picking up all four of them. Then the final one for me on the sort of I would pick it up list are lip products, and I have a selection here. I have 7 colours from 3 different formulations. Now I don't know if I would pick up all of these, I don't know if I would pick up these exact shades, but one that I know I would pick up fairly quickly is my favourite nude shade, and it's the Lip Desire Sculpting Lipstick from Isadora in Bare Beige. I love this a lot, and I've used this a lot. I'm just gonna swatch the colours here. It is my perfect nude. It's a neutral, slightly pinky mauvey. I say it's almost like a grey beige colour, and it works amazing with my skin. I love it, would pick this up as quickly as I could. Then I had a little bit of a think, and my favourite liquid lipstick formulation are the NYX Soft My Lip creams. So I have 5 of them here, and I don't know if these would be the exact 5 I would pick up. I would definitely pick up about 3 of them. I have the shade Cape Town, which is a light brown, and on me it also reads as a nude, but you can probably see it is more yellow and warmer toned of a brown nude light colour. So they do look very different on the lips, and I do like this a lot. I would pick up a colour like that even if I couldn't get Cape Town specifically. London is sort of similar, so that would also be an option. I would consider picking up a brown, and this is the shade Leon. My swatches are horrible. And it's a rosy reddish pinky brown. I like it a lot. And then I have an orange, and I have a bright orange, and this is Morocco. It is just one of my favourite colours to wear, and I love wearing orange lippies, so that would be an option. I also would want a red, and the red I picked is Amsterdam, which is one that I would consider, it's sort of like a neutral, slightly bluey pinky toned red. I thought it was closer to Morocco when I first watched them, but they end up looking different, so I would get that. And the other one here I have is Copenhagen, which is a berry, and it is a sort of a purpley, pinky, dark berry colour. And these are some of my favourites from the Soft My Lip Cream line, and are some of the ones I would consider. I also have this here. I'm not sure I would actually pick up this exact product. Not sure I would need it, but it is a type of colour that I like, and it's the Majestic Mauve from the Isadora Twist Up Matte Lips, and it ends up being sort of, family-wise, I'm going to swatch it up here, closer to the nudes and Leon, but it is more red pink. I like this a lot, and I also like the formulation, so I would consider it. Lip products for me are kind of a difficult thing because I don't know how many type of colours I would want to get at first. I do know I would get the nude one because it is a colour that I wear a lot, and I also like this one a lot. And I also would consider picking up the Cape Town one or a similar lighter brown from the NYX Soft My Lip Cream line, along with possibly a more deeper brown. Another option for a brown is NYX Liquid Suede in Soft Spoken. This is a little bit deeper of a brown, and it is a little bit more rosy. You can sort of see it there, it's swatched next to Leon. They're kind of close, but that kind of colour is a colour that I like to wear. I also do like wearing my reds, my oranges, and a berry darker lip, so these would be colours I would eventually buy anyway to add to it. I have more potential products that I would add. One is something very similar to the Isadora one. This is in the shade Budapest, also the NYX Soft My Lip Creams. It is a touch more purple though. The price difference between the NYX Soft My Lip Cream and the Isadora Twist Up Matte Lips, I don't know. These are $99 for the full sizes. This one costs $139, so I would assume that this is about $139 if not more. So I would go for the cheaper option in that case, most likely if it was a colour that I felt I needed to replace quickly. Another colour I have is bright pink. I don't wear pink a lot in terms of lip colours, and I haven't picked a different one, but one tone of pink I like wearing is the very bright pink, and this is very similar in tone to one of my favourite pinks, which is the Revlon lip crayon thingy. This has more shine to it, and it is also one I can't get a hold of in Norway, which is why this ended up taking its place as something that I would potentially buy if I felt the need for it. Another one that would maybe arise a bit quicker is something like this. This is Dallas, and this is my sort of hybrid between my browns and my oranges. I can't swatch colours to save my life. Let me swatch it on the other side. And it's a much more muted orange, and it's much more brown. I love this shade. Wish they had this in a full size because I would buy it, but I haven't found that one yet. I got this in a vault. But a colour like that would be something I would consider. I also would potentially consider something like a bullet lipstick, because not a lot of these have been bullet lipsticks. And this is very similar to Amsterdam, so I'm not sure I would buy both. This is Snow White Red from Besame. I do like this lipstick combination a lot though. Another lip colour family that I'm missing here are my purples, and I don't wear a lot of purples, but it is a colour that I very much enjoy. So I have Bangkok, which is a vibrant in-your-face purple. I like it a lot. And if I can't get this, because I have to buy that in a set, I think, I have this as an option, which is a Makeup Mekka lipstick in Slay. It's a little bit different, a little bit more pinky perhaps, or a little bit deeper. I like it a lot. So those are my lip options. Something you probably maybe have noticed, I've not picked any eyeliners or anything like that. No lip liners, no lip glosses. They are only something that I wear occasionally, and I don't find the need to replace them right away if I were to lose them, because they're not something that I reach for all the time. They're not really that essential to me in my makeup collection. Something that I would consider picking up in my Colourpop order, again I keep going back to this, is a palette. This is what I would sort of build your own palette wise. This is just picking from shades I have. Not all of these are available on the Colourpop website, but I would pick some neutrals, browns, most of them in leaning kind of warm. I have 2 yellows in here, I know, and some oranges and some coppers. I'm not sure all of these are available, but something in that family. I have an orange, and then I have these sort of pinky purples here. Not sure if they would be the ones I would pick, because I essentially needed to fill the place. And I also have the Glass Ball shade, which is a duochrome. It's one of my favourites that I would buy. This would be in my, at this point, quite large Colourpop order. But something I also would eventually think about is I have this, which is my palette of other singles. JD Glow Galaxy shadows over here. I love them. They would eventually find their way into my life because I like them so much. In the middle I have Cleona shadow. So I have 6 stained glass multi-chromes, and I have one from the 66.5 degrees north, I think it was, in Ice Algae. Love that shade so much. It is so unique compared to anything I have. I'm so glad I picked it up. Would I perhaps buy that shade? I don't know. I swatched it in a space I can't easily show you, but it's bright. I would pick up some of the stained glass collection though. I have fallen head over heels in love with multi-chrome shadows, and these are the best. I have 2 here from Sydney Grace. I have Aztec Ruins and Blushed. Aztec Ruins is a gorgeous, gorgeous bright copper, and Blushed is the best rose gold ever. I would buy those 2 specifically. Those 2 I would set out and buy. I would also perhaps pick up more shades from Sydney Grace, Cleona, potentially JD Glow, and also Colourpop, as well as maybe other places. But that's sort of where I would start. And I don't know how long it would take me to collect all of this. I hope this video has made some sort of sense to someone. Let me quickly tally up some of what I would buy if I were to buy the base stuff that I talked about, as well as some of the lippies, and I will tell you what it would potentially cost me to restart my makeup collection. I have not taken tools into account here. I was considering that, but that would take a lot longer, and I don't have the energy for that right now. So let me quickly tally everything up and I will be back in a second. Adding everything together, my best estimation for how much this would cost me in Norwegian kroner is 3,500, which I am not surprised by. I actually thought it would be higher, and in this I have added the Colourpop palettes that I would buy, along with 4 Super Shock shadows. I took the Isadora Face Sculptor Price. I took 5 of the NYX Soft My Lip creams along with the Isadora Lip Sculptor. I didn't add any other lip products in. I also added Tarte Shape Tape to it, and then the Makeup Mekka liquid foundation and concealer, along with the powder foundation and everything else. And I'm pretty pleased with that. I think it's better than I hoped, so I can't really be upset about it. I know the actual cost would be more, considering I would also have to pay shipping because most of this would be bought online. And for anything coming outside of Norway, so the Tarte stuff as well as the Colourpop stuff, import tax, which is 25% of the value of the total package, along with the postage fee. So it would be closer to 5,000, I think, when everything has been added in. And I feel okay about that, knowing the cost of that would be spread over many weeks. Considering I would be able to buy most of this stuff also not at full price. I also think if everything is at full price with import tax and everything added is we say 5,000 as just a number. Considering I would also be able to get some of this on discount, whether it would be with the coupon code that I have or can find, or because they have things on sale every once in a while, I could probably get this even lower. The actual total cost would maybe come closer to 4,500, if you maybe even lower than that, depending. It would also depend on whether or not I would buy more lip products. Obviously that would be more expensive, but sort of as a base, I'm okay with spending that money over the course of 1, 2 or 3 months. I think it would take me a while. I would not be able to spend all of it at once, but over the course of a couple of weeks, a couple of months, I could, and I would have a base collection which I could make many different looks, and I think it would make me happy. I would eventually obviously want to add potentially more eyeshadows, which is where I would go into maybe singles, because I prefer singles over palettes, and also maybe add more lip products, different formulations, different finishes. I would potentially add a gloss in here, a lip liner, maybe an eye pencil. But as a base, I'm pretty pleased with where I ended up, even though it's taken a lot of work. So the camera rudely cut me off when I was saying goodbye. But I did remember one thing I forgot to completely mention, and it was an eyeshadow primer. An eyeshadow primer is something that I use almost every single time I do my makeup, and I find them very beneficial for me because my eyelids do get oily when I'm wearing eyeshadow, and very few shadows stay put throughout the day. But something I also like doing with eyeshadow primers is applying them underneath my eyes where I have lines and wrinkles before I put concealer on, and it helps not make them sink in as deep. The one I picked is the Mekka eyeshadow primer, and I would buy that fairly early on because it works both really well underneath the eyes for being a primer for my concealer, but it also is amazing on the eyelids, and it is one of the less expensive ones that I've tried. So because this video was probably a bit rambly, I'm going to take you through all of the items that would be in my little mix of stuff that I would buy first if my makeup collection disappeared. I would buy the No. 7 Airbrush White Primer, the Makeup Mekka Green Colour Corrector, the Makeup Mekka Hello Pretty Powder Foundation, the Makeup Mekka Hydra Cover Foundation, the Makeup Mekka Hydra Shape Multi-Use Concealer, the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, the NYX Foundation Mixer in white, an Isadora pressed powder, the Colourpop sheer powder in fair, Isadora face sculptor in warm peach, Makeup Mekka setting spray, NYX micro brow pencil in auburn, NYX control freak brow gel, Makeup Mekka eyeshadow base, Makeup Mekka back to basics hot and cold eyeshadow palette, Makeup Mekka back to basics burnt tones eyeshadow palette, the Colourpop Yes Please palette. In the video I've been holding up the I Think I Love You palette that is not currently on the website, so I would buy either the California Love, the Whatever palette, or one of the 9 pan more neutral palettes. I would buy 4 Colourpop Super Shock shadows, unsure which shades, but most likely warm browns, coppers, the Max Factor 2000 Calorie Waterproof Volume. I would buy the NYX Soft Matte Lip Creams in the shade Cape Town, Copenhagen, Amsterdam, Lyon, and Morocco, and I would buy the Isadora Lip Sculptor in Bare Beige. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope some of it made sense to you, and I hope you're staying safe, and I will see you again soon. Bye!